Hi, everyone. Thank you and welcome to coming to the webinar today. We have an esteemed and extreme panel today with us. I will introduce them and they will introduce themselves in a minute. I want to start with a story that's related to something that everything that we're going to talk about today. And this is something that I've been doing for the last few days. I have a workshop coming up that will be in different programming languages. So I have one set of files in Java, and I need to translate them into TypeScript and Python, stuff like that. And of course, use Copilot for that. And it's not like I was disappointed, but it's not like it was very smooth. I had to cut things into pieces, feed them into the robot. We talked about robot before we started. Something came out, had to do something with it, fit it in. So it wasn't a very smooth experience, which brings us to what we're actually going to talk about today. And this is the promise of LLMs and AI, the actual state of LLMs and AI, what is working, what we hoped would still work by now, and where are we going with this? And before we start introducing the people, what we're trying to do here is trying to not just talk about different ideas and dreams and stuff like that, take it down to what we're doing every day and try to learn from that and maybe have some kind of direction from there. So I'm Gil Zilberfeld. I'll be the moderator today. And I have with me is Sankhe from GitHub, I have Luba Orlovsky from Earnix, and I have Bar-Sinai from Provengo. And we're talking, before we're going to start talking about stuff, guys, introduce yourself. Ski, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone, I'm Sankhe, architect at GitHub, and I'm pretty much obsessed with, developer productivity and automation. My hobbies are experimenting with new technologies and then, finding out where the problems and how I can exploit it, for the future as well. So I think I should do that as a real job as well. So over to Luba.
Thank you. So I'm Luba Orlovsky, really excited to be here. I'm a principal researcher in Earnix, a global provider of analytical services to financial companies. And as a principal researcher, I was, everything that happens in this field of LLM, it just cannot go unnoticed, of course, and it's like a real revolution. And the expectations were huge, just like Gil has mentioned. And now we are starting to see the hype is a bit over. We are starting to see how things are getting crystallized, and we are seeing the real picture. And I think today's conversation will be useful and helpful for all sides. Michael?
Okay, hi, I'm Michael Bar-Sinai. I'm CTO and co-founder of Provengo. We do tools for specification and model-based software engineering, which is an interesting approach to software engineering in general. And I'm looking forward to an interesting discussion here with LLMs.
So before we start with the questions, for the audience, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A box. We have some time at the end for answers, not just repeating the questions again, or the complaints. So put them in the Q&A box, and at the end, we'll see what we can answer and try to do this even truthfully. First question, I think AI landed on us like a year and a half ago. So it was very noisy, and everywhere you turn, there was a startup doing something with AI. A lot of hype and lots of new acronyms, LLMs. So how do you see LLMs today compared to the hype that started like a year and a half ago? And how does it impact the developers day to day? Ski, go first.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for that. So the first time I saw, a LLM demonstration, it was, just magical, because I think most probably it may have been tested before that, these prompts work well, and you don't get a chance to evaluate that across, right? But over the past 3 years, with every new generation, the kind of responses that it has generated, I know the first effect is not going to be the same as the most recent effect. However, the way I've been using it, mostly things where sometimes I'm working on multiple stuff and I may lose motivation in, going along a particular path. So the LLM is the one which keeps me going forward, because the tedious part is usually taken care of, in a much more, smoother state. So things like, boilerplate code, thinking about, what is the next probable thing that I need over here. And then for the past year and a half, I've been pretty much using the next generation, which is like the workspace type of mode that you use, right? So instead of doing it in a chat interface, it's more like give the LLM a particular task and then have it generate a possible solution that you can review. And then if you like it, then you can accept it, or if you don't like it, you can ask it to maybe make some changes. So it's like the new generation is much more promising. So hopefully, Gil, you will not have those issues that you are seeing. You give the LLM a task, hey, take this file, convert it from Java to TypeScript, and then it should give you a better response than the current version that you've been used to.
Excellent. I'll wait a year and a half for that as well. So, Luba, what do you think about that? How has AI impacted your work?
Yeah, I actually love this comparison to magic, and I remember that first impression and the first wow effect, how it worked. And now it became like one of the instruments, like one of the instruments you are using every day. I would even say boring in some case, because okay, you are used to it, and you that's the first thing probably you would go and try on different tasks. And I have actually an example from this week. So I'm sharing the conferences that I get exposed to, and there was the one conference that should occur in the nearest time about LLMs, and I sent it in the chat, and the reaction was, okay, that's again about LLMs, we are tired of it, okay, no, we want something else. So we see that it's not this magical thing anymore. People are not that excited, but people know that it's like a nice tool that might work. And of course, one of the brightest examples is Copilot, specifically GitHub Copilot, and there are all types of other things that they save a lot of times, and of course they do not work smoothly. But from what I see, developers, they try it, they complain about it, they make laugh, they laugh about it, but in the end they don't want to give it up. They want to continue using it. So it's here to stay. It's here to develop further, and we are part of it.
Michael?
Right. So I think of the LLMs capture a lot of mind share now. Like, people talk about it, they want to learn about it, and it's something that's top of mind for, I think, most developers. And thankfully, we're, I think, at the end of the hypes cycle. Like, it's not have LLMs with their chips anymore, and we're going to be replaced shock. So we realize it's a tool, it's something we can use, and we should learn how to use it because it's very powerful. But the question now is how, right? And how we're using it. And I think, having this idea, what Ski mentioned before with the tasks, where you give it a task and you get something, and now you need to judge what it was doing, right? Is something that that's probably how we're going to start. This is basically how you work with a junior developer, right? Basically, okay, go do this, you get it back, and then you do some code review. And obviously, hopefully, the junior would learn at some point, so it would improve. So I think this is what we're going to see. So we'll get faster implement, increase our velocity in a sense. Having said that, we can't really, at some point that the requirement to working system change, someone need to like properly understand the problem and its context and how our intended solution is actually going to solve it and all this. So we won't be able to outsource understanding completely. We need to know what we're building. We will be able to do it faster. That's for sure.
Okay, I think that I relate to what Ski said about boilerplate, like things that are things that are boring. It's not like they're really boring. It's become a tool. I use it. Time goes by. I have something in my hand. Can actually move forward with what I was doing. So this comes down to my next question: like actual productivity. Where do you see things that actually save you time or speed you up? Luba, what do you see in your day-to-day job about this?
Well, even not developer work related, but I need to write texts, and that's what this thing is created for originally. So it does a great job. Well, we don't have to say it, but of course it needs a supervision, and of course it doesn't get all the aspects, but it saves tons of times because it's much more faster to go through the text and to fine-tune, to emphasize different accents than to write the whole thing from scratch. So this works, and that will continue to work, and I'm really happy that it exists. And again, so we today we are an active user of Copilot, and we see it. Actually, it comes from two places. First, we are users, and on another hand, we understand that we need to be able to provide such services to our users. So we are starting to develop that as a service to our users based on different packages that are available. So it's not exactly what you asked, but it's like it touches us on every aspect because the expectations have changed, and it's not enough what we are doing anymore. We need to be ready. We need to come prepared. So on the one hand, the productivity has increased, but we need to come with the tools that help to increase this productivity to our users, which are insurance analysts and banking analysts. So we need to be there. We are thinking about.
Michael, how do you see the changes in the day-to-day productivity?
So I think it's mostly, if it was done thousands times on the internet or like on Stack Overflow, then it's GenAI gives you a good. It basically saves you the Google go to Stack Overflow copy and paste, which is good. It's a good. It does get lost quite early when you get when you're starting to do something specific. But again, so since boilerplate is something we do a lot, this is good. So we move faster, but I mean, the question is about productivity, right? It's not about velocity, and there's a difference because like anyone who ever inflated the balloon and then released it without tying it, you know that you get a lot of velocity, right, going around, but you don't get anywhere. So the question is how do you direct your newfound velocity to somewhere that you want to go to, right? And this is actually a challenge we have identified at Provengo, right? Tackling where do we want to go with this? How the system should behave. And I think this type of systems, like if you just do LLM and you move faster, that's nice, but you need to know where you're getting to. And for this, you need a clear plan and better specification, also a way to validate that what you got is what you wanted to get. And this type of system is what I think will complement LLMs. Like, I mean, this is what we did, obviously. Without that, we won't be productive. We just have a lot of fun, but won't end up where we want to.
Okay. Any other tips that you're using in GitHub to get more productive?
Yeah, absolutely. So, building upon what Luba and Michael mentioned, it's about understanding those complex systems, right? So I think the LLMs, one thing that they do very, very well is if you give them some context or maybe the whole stuff, like your whole workspace, then it can help you understand those complex systems. So imagine a scenario, right? You just recently maybe switched jobs, or maybe you're now working on a brand new project and you have this complex code base, and your manager tells you to make a particular code change. And there have been times like companies have built up the tech debt so much that some of the developers are even afraid to touch a particular piece of code that they are not really familiar with. So this is where the power of the LLM combined with the context that you have comes into effect, is to better understand what's even part of your system. Or if I need to fix this, then where should I even look into my code base, right? So earlier you would have to spend hours or maybe sessions, workshops with maybe programmers who have worked within that code base for a long time. But imagine a scenario, that person has already left the company and there's nobody to train you, right? So how do you still get your job done? And this is where you can leverage the LLMs along with the context to better understand. So it's like a very patient pair programmer, I would say, PPP, patient pair programmer. And you can ask it all sorts of questions. It's going to give you the answers. It's going to tell you exactly where this piece of functionality resides. So then you can make a better judgment of how to go about fixing this. So this is just one of the ways that you can have that better productivity. And then as Michael mentioned as well, that you can't just get it in one shot, right? You have to iterate, and you can create the velocity by being more productive with more iterations as well. So this helps you get into that cycle where you're spending less time for each iteration because you understand it better and you're making the right updates. And then, of course, you need to verify it, with the proper testing tools on the very end, because verification is like the most important thing here.
It's very interesting because it leads to my next question, actually, because I'm one of the things that worried me from the start, even before that, was that how much trust we give AI, not in terms of like Terminator and stuff like that, but in terms of if we trust it or like another junior developer on the team, what kind of impact do we have in terms of trust? If the LLM explains the system to me in some way, how much context does the tool have, and how much different in the context that I have, and what will I learn, and will I trust this explanation? So it leads me to the questions of quality and risk. How does the tools like that impact the product quality, not just the code quality, but also product quality? Michael, do you want to say how things are done in Provengo?
Yeah, I can start. So I mean, we're using obviously LLMs both when we code, right? It's Copilot, and actually use a few of them. So we use Tab9. Some different people have different preferences in a team. And I think, from my experience here and also talking to friends, it could go either way, right? So under responsible developer, you get the code, you probably you understand it properly, and you have some testing in place and stuff like that. Then you get it's a great advantage, especially in languages that you're not very proficient in. Right? From my personal experience, I'm mostly a Java/Scala/JavaScript guy. So I had to write Python recently, which I know, but I'm not like super Python programmer. And the code I got from Copilot is much better than the one I would have written my own. Right? And also, it's a nice way of learning. But again, I read it. Okay, so the flip side is if you have, the LGTM, right? That looks good to me. Kind of approach, and then you get a lot of code inside in your system, and it's not properly tested, and it's not even the problem of it doesn't have to be the problem of GenAI, by the way, because maybe the prompt wasn't accurate, right? Or maybe the developer didn't really understand what they're trying to build. It's just, okay, I just want to get all the story points from the to-do column to the done column. So if without proper, like Ski said, without proper validation, verification of what we got, quality is we're just going to have more bugs faster, basically.
Ski, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, 100% with what Michael just mentioned. If you don't know what you want, then you're going to be having the poor quality. So I think having that extensive, test cases built beforehand, before you even build the product, would be, I think the most important thing here, because LLMs can generate whatever you want, but you want to verify that at the end. So the more test cases you have checking for each and everything, then you can be assured that, okay, whatever this system has generated, let's say if you want to increase the trust in whatever code is being outputted, and you want to have minimal reviews, if that's your end goal, then you need to build up that test suite beforehand. But if you don't have that test suite beforehand, then you have to be the one responsible for reviewing whatever is being generated, right? Because ultimately someone has to be in the loop to determine that quality. And then the more you iterate, the better you're going to get at the quality. And I think the LLMs are also going through every generation, they get better. So they do the same way that we have been traditionally doing, right? With more iterations, you get better quality. And I'll let Luba give her take on it.
Yeah, thank you, Ski. If I may, I want to go to the previous question because I thought about another example, and then then I'll get back to the trust question. So we have like a very nice example that I want to share of how we are using LLMs, and which is not something dramatic, but it works really nice. We use it for bugs triage, okay, and we keep a certain prompt that allocates bugs according to their characteristics to different teams, and we can update the specific prompt because there is a human in the process, and the human is checking whether the decision is correct or not. And now we got to the level that it works almost in every case, and when it doesn't, we are just updating the prompt, and then the next moment we need to run it, then this actually works. So it really helps. It saved, I don't know, tons of time, and it's like a really cool stuff. And now to the question about trust, as Michael has said, it's not too different from any engineering, like any programming, because there should be specific protocols that code reviews, etc. And this is exactly what should happen here. So, for example, when we started to talk about copilots, so now, of course, everybody got very excited at, on one hand, but on the other hand, we needed to make sure that it's okay from the compliance point of view. And so we have a list of requirements of whether it is created by the copilot, then it should go through review, but any code should go through review. But it should be documented that it was created using AI, so that everybody knows and maybe pay more attention. And as I said, if a person who's looking at it is understands the context, right? The context, just like an LLM, then it's not something automatic. Okay, it looks like it works, but really understand the created code, then it's just it's just an accelerator. But if we decide to to close our eyes and just trust it blindlessly, then it's not going to work. It will fail really, really fast. And I hope no one is no one thinking that this is what the promise is now, because it isn't.
Yeah, I agree. And that it goes back to the hand holding. And sometimes even thinking, like, as you were talking about this, I was thinking about if it's like another member on the team, maybe it's like a management issue now. How do you not even talk about the new software as a person, but how do you manage information, knowledge, stuff like that? But let's pop the bubble a minute. Let's talk about things that don't work. So not just the big stuff, like the annoying stuff. See, like you're in GitHub, you're in the front, so you see all the new stuff. You probably have new stuff that doesn't work, and some of the old stuff as well. So what can you tell us about things that really bug you today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of my pet peeves is, it's like if you want to drill down, like right now, you reach to a level of comfort that, you tell the LLM what to do and it does it most of the times. But there have been times where, let's say you are using a particular package with a particular version and you're looking for a completion of a prompt which knows which version of the package you are using, because maybe there's an API which is within that package which is deprecated or which is not even available, but it still suggests those type of things to you. So maybe the next generation would be not really a LLM, but a way to augment, to add more context, which is very specific to your workspace. Go through all the dependencies, get all the API documentation for those exact dependencies, and only ground that whole LLM session within that context window, right? So that is where I see the next generation happen, hopefully, so that I don't have to, find out it once I run the program. Hey, this API doesn't even exist anymore, so things like that. So those are my pet peeves, very small, something that I've been dealing with, but hopefully this will get resolved in our next versions as well. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's like, in my mind, like there's a big like science of context, and like we need to get to. Luba, what still annoys you about LLMs and AI?
Well, sometimes I get questions related to how safe it is actually to use a software on an AI product. And again, so we are kind of getting back to your previous question, but it really is a serious one because it also can touch upon different regulations. And so it's not exactly touches a work of a developer, but still sometimes the software itself, you know, you should declare whether it was developed using AI products or not. And then if it was, you have to go through a list of other questions. And on one hand, it's a good thing because it makes things more stable and more secure. But and on the other hand, it's kind of you know, stops people from using those advanced tools, let's say in production, because you know that okay, the moment you touch it and you know it's like something that is considered experimental, then you don't want to put it there because you don't know, maybe it will create and then something unexpected, and you just prefer to wait. So okay, we are saying that the hype is over, so hopefully it will get more mature, and in the end everybody will be happy, and I don't know, we'll get to some form of consensus, and you know, in break-even point where you can use these products and will not get any well, I don't want to say claims, but acquisition that it's not okay, not safe enough, something like that.
Actually trust what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah, so it's
what annoys you?
Coming back to Luba's point, I mean, it's always the hardest to get the legal guys to trust things, right? And then they always have these horror stories about this company that, you know, got sued and everybody had to go home walking because they had to sell the cars. So I mean, obviously the hallucinations things, right? So you give it something and it gives you some solution. What? That's one thing that's annoying. It's getting, I'd say it's not as often, doesn't happen as often as it used to, but I think it's always going to be there. But I think for the most annoying things that if you ask about as small annoyances, I think it's what I call the 5-year-old usage pattern, where you know what you want ish kind of thing, and then you give it a prompt and it doesn't give you the thing. So you try it another wording and another wording. I mean, you basically end up spending much more time shooting prompts at it and disliking the result than actually writing the thing yourself. And so this is, I have a friend of mine who did an generative AI talk, and he wanted to do all the slides, just purely generated images, no Photoshop, no anything. And he spent a lot of time just prompting the thing. So, but at least with images, you can very quickly see that that what you got is wrong. I mean, image is a very complex thing, right? But we have the GPUs, natural GPUs in our head, and we can see that, you know, this guy has 7 fingers on his hand, and that cat has 5 ears, and this makes no sense. It's much harder to see this in code.
Yeah, I think like it's I'm thinking about like taking what you said into my examples. It's like I think the gap between what we expect it to do after, like we've seen it works for the first, I don't know, very simple, basic, medium stuff, even advanced stuff, and then it fails, and you say, why should it work? It should work. It did so well in the last tries. So yeah. So next question is, we talked about like the developer space, and then we talked about quality. And Michael started talking about this, about the requirements phase. So like, let's talk about, is it really live to the promise of actually not just improving productivity and stuff like that, but time to market, time to learn? How do you see that, Michael?
So I think it accelerates mostly standard tasks for currently single developers, right? So if it was done many times and the model was able to learn it, it's doing a very good job, and this is an acceleration. This is definitely an acceleration. But it's the method that I'd say normally. I mean, we get more stuff now with the agents doing refactoring and code spaces, like Ski mentioned. But getting the full, requirement working system, we're not there yet. And I personally believe that LLMs alone wouldn't be able to take us all the way to where we want, right? So we need additional guidance from other more formal systems, such as the one we develop, or maybe other systems as well.
Okay, Ski, before moving to I want to ask Michael like a specific question about what they're working on. It's like model formals and formal models. Sorry, how does that impact delivery and time to market and stuff like that? The whole business process.
So formal models, I mean, this is something that they're not very known, I guess. So maybe we spend a bit more just describing them a bit. The idea is this is not statistical models. These are deterministic models. That's pure computer science. A lot of people studied them in undergrad. I know I studied them in undergrad. I was like, okay, but this was the old kind of models. I later came back to university. And I met the new generation of these things, which are not just descriptive. I mean, we used to just sit there and have all kind of like funny Greek letters on the whiteboard and say, okay, looks good. That's going to be an exam. Okay. That was, the main question. But the active models, the ones that are executable, and they can actually be translated either to parts of the system or to, they can be validated and can be visualized. It's something that you could use to actually describe what you want the intended system to do. So it gives you a good goal for the entire team to aim to. And it's not just what the system should do, it's also what the system should not do, right? Like you should not sell an airline ticket to a 17-year-old without parental consent or something. Or this kind of infinite loop where a record in a logging system just, jumps between nodes and doesn't even get persisted is bad. This kind of thing. So it gives you really the direction that you want to go in, and coupled with the LLMs, where you get the velocity, you get the productivity. I think so. It's tells you where you want to go.
Okay. So Ski, how let's talk again about like cutting time to market or speeding things up in a business level. How does this help GitHub? It's very interesting to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to double down on what Michael just said, that you need those, specialized models which are good at doing what they do, right? So think about this, right? Throughout your whole, software development cycle, you're doing different things. However, you can't expect, a generalized LLM to help you with each and everything, because otherwise you're building these big prompts. Okay, I want to maybe, I did a meeting, take this transcript, turn it into, actionable things, or maybe turn it into a design doc. And, you're just writing a bunch of prompts every time, right? So that's not going to be scalable if you're looking at that whole flow. So the way I look at it is you have these, specialized maybe models or agents, as Michael mentioned before, which do that particular thing. So maybe I'm in, Copilot. I say, look at my last Zoom meeting and tell me what the action items were. And then from those action items, now I tell another agent to do something else. Maybe, hey, create issues into this project board for each of those action items and assign it, to those people, right? So that there could be multiple things that you can use with this type of a mode where you are within your chat, you're invoking these different agents, as you go along which know their own domain and which are like specialized at that. So, if you tell it to open an issue, it will open an issue in the right spot because all it does is it knows to open issues. So something similar, and then you can scale on, right? So with Copilot, now there's going to be a capability where you can generate your own plugin as well. So if you have a certain way of doing things, or as Michael mentioned, he has his own model, he can make a plugin out of his own model within Copilot, and then his customers will be able to use that plugin to invoke that model and get the benefits out of it, because that is something which is very proprietary to what Michael is doing, which GitHub doesn't know what that agent is doing. However, if there is a trust within that agent, then you're okay with using it, right? So that might be a shift in the paradigm in how we use these Copilot type LLM models. So, and it will go through the whole delivery cycle, from concept to the market.
Luba, you actually gave examples of non-developer stuff that actually speeds up. Can you give other examples of how things are speeding up, maybe not just in the developer space?
Oh yeah, so you always go to meetings, right? So summarizing those, getting something actionable so that you don't have to remember them. So creating memories or creating snippets that you don't want to forget, and putting them on calendars. So those could be some simple tasks that you need to do anyway to organize your work day, right? So those small things would add up. So maybe it's a notes app, maybe it's a voice conferencing app. There was this one instance where one person switched from I will not take names of brands here, but I will tell you the end brand that they switched to. And the only reason why they switched to Microsoft Teams was because now most of the Microsoft products are infused with pretty much LLMs everywhere. And the one thing that they liked was able to summarize a meeting up to a point where someone, let's say, joins in late and they don't know what happened in the earlier part of the meeting. So they can just type in, or click a button saying, tell me what happened so far, so that they are caught up to that meeting, right? So that way they're not spending time asking questions which maybe have already answered. So these, small things that you might start embedding within your products to make it, more useful to everyday people who are not just developers, would be those things that people will look for and make them switch products just because of that one killer feature.
Luba, do you want? Luba, do you want to add something? Yeah.
Yeah, so I have two examples. One of them is so trivial that we are not even noticing it, but it's here with us every day. Something like auto-completion. It can be really cool, right? We are writing and it guesses most of the times, and actually it saves times if you think about it, how many seconds it saves. So in the end, it sums up. And there is another example from the beginning of the revolution that I really, really loved. And so Google came up with the package called Fun Search. And what it is doing, it's really close to my heart because I'm coming from mathematics, from the field of optimizations. What it does, it takes different heuristics for solving a certain mathematical problem, and it has something that knows how to evaluate them. So it has a scoring function of that of each heuristics. So in the end, based on this heuristics, it generates a new one, and it is able to evaluate it. And so finally, they show that it can solve the mathematical problems that were considered unsolvable up to now. And it's like a completely new approach, right? They are generating them, not the solution, not the number, but the whole path So I was just, charmed by the elegance of that approach. Like they came from completely different direction and were able to solve an existing problem that not necessarily, you don't think of it as an LLM. Yes, that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. So we're coming up to almost to the end. I'm going to ask the question that everybody wants to know, like, what will it look like in 6 months, and what will it look like in a year and a half, 2 years from now? How will our life change in everything that we talked about? What will be better and what will be less annoying? Ski, do you want to go first?
Yeah, certainly. So a year ago at one of the conference where I was doing a workshop, I had asked the audience, something similar to this, where I asked them, how comfortable are you letting agents take an action on your behalf? And then, this was very early on, right? So there is no surprise that nobody said, just, yes. But there was nobody who said no either. So most of the audience was like a bell curve, and most of the audience was like right in between, where they said maybe, depending on what it's going to be, right? So that is where I see the short-term effects would be that people start getting comfortable with some small low-stake actions that you can give to an AI agent and get the response as long as you're part of that loop. So this is like what I see happening in the short-term space, maybe 6 to maybe the next year, where slowly you start like the rise of the AI agents sort of, which are specialized in doing these sort of things.
Luba?
So I think in the short term, we'll see that every, people will try to find different ways to utilize it in their everyday routines, because people are mostly lazy. I'm talking about myself, and trying to save time. And this thing is able to save lots of time. And in the long term, I believe it will become like a new discipline. So as I say, it will be a tool that is provided, okay? And so there will be people who actually need to develop it. It will become probably a certain time of speciality, right? And on the other hand, they might be, we already see it, and it's kind of looks a little funny, but still prompt engineering as a new profession, as a new discipline. So I do believe that it will continue to develop, and more and more people will learn how to get the maximum from that tool, and to become real experts.
Maybe the tools will get better. Michael?
Yeah, so I think stressing Luba's point about all good engineering is really productive laziness, right? I mean, we work hard, so we wouldn't have to work hard anymore. So I think we'll see more tools like Ski and Luba, more tools that are doing smaller tasks initially and in the short term. And things will come faster and cheaper, and with sneakier bugs also, because the easier one, like the low-hanging fruit, we had initially LLMs generating code that didn't pass syntactic parsing, right? So now the syntax is correct, and this is easy. But the bugs, the deeper bugs, are going to stay there. Not only because of the LLM and the way it works, but also because of intent, and because sometimes the bug is with us. We don't know what we want, right? And so the LLM basically is something. I think maybe one of the biggest advances LLM would be able to do is just saying, I don't understand what you want. This is something that the junior could say, but LLM will always give you a result. And then we're back to the old garbage in, garbage out thing, right? So if again, if we don't have intent guidance system, we don't agree on a target, and if we don't have a good way of judging what we got, we're going to have an issue. I think the whole programming in English thing sounds good, not going to happen. Again, because there's a glass ceiling of how accurate human language can be, right? It's great for writing poems and telling your loved ones how their eyes are like the sky or something, but if you want to do like accurate algorithmic stuff, it's not. I mean, you could technically do it. You'll end up with really long documents, and then we're back to waterfall, right? So here are 300 pages. Suppose an LLM could implement it. They're probably contain lots of contradictions and stuff. So we're going to see a rise, hopefully, because I just founded a company about this, but we're going to see a rise with formal methods and with the way of validating things and making sure that the requirements are correct. All these things, all this planning, clear definition, acceptance testing are going to have much more, much bigger weight in all the production, SDLC, the software development lifecycle. And there's a quote by David Laneweber, which I like, which is, give someone a program and you frustrate him for the day, teach them how to program and you frustrate them for a lifetime. And I think so. We'll still have frustration there, but hopefully it's going to be less frustrating, and we have more productive and more velocity, but also more productiveness, right? Just going to the correct place. And the LLMs alone are not going to cut it. We need to also some intent guidance systems.
Okay, so we're coming to this is my end of my questions. The audience, if you want to ask questions, put them in the Q&A box. There is one which I was actually thinking about as we were talking about putting something in the chat, and then I said, wait a minute, chat is something that is only on my computer, right? So it maybe pair programming, just me and the chat. How is it working in a group? And the question is if you have experience or ideas of how LLMs can improve communication and collaboration within a team. So not just like doing stuff for you, but also you mentioned like taking notes. And actually, when you said that, I was thinking about when people are going to ask like for 5 minutes, like, can you see my screen? Can you not see my screen? Am I there yet? Can you see my video? Like we went through. So that would be nicely summarized. But yeah, collaboration, communication. How can LLMs help in that? What do you think? Anybody can go first.
A really good example of what sometimes happens to me. And so if I need to explain a concept, right? Something algorithmic, and I'm talking to a developer that is not necessarily comes from the same, comes with the same expertise in the algorithmic field, then it can be really hard when I start to explain, I don't know, about conversions and stuff, because people want to write code, and it might, so it's a bit specific, but it really can help. So you can specifically explain to a non-technical, non-mathematical person the concept of gradient descent, right? And it comes like with a really cool explanation that, okay, you go with a descent, etc., because it's easier, and it is able to bring the concepts like to the level that a person is able to understand. It's a bit simplified, of course, but this is the idea. So something like that. Another example is when you have different specializations in the team. I don't know, maybe front end and back and the back end, and then it just can can explain the requirements, how they should be connected, because they do not necessarily talk the same language, and there should be a person that see both sides. And maybe it doesn't have to be a person. Maybe it's enough that, well, we said it's not, but as a first step, it's enough that there is this agent that is that understands both sides, and then in the end, it, of course, will still require a certain review.
Hey, Michael, do you want to dream about what's going to happen in the communication collaboration?
What can happen? Yeah, I think getting the context. Right? So maybe even just, if you have the entire Slack history or something, and there's a new guy in the team saying, who would it be best to approach regarding this method or this functionality? The LLM should probably be able to answer these kind of things, so to kind of like get you up to speed with the systems. And also, I'm going to try to do this, take a technical explanation and make it less technical, because that would be really useful. I have to say, it's a pain point when I talk to people, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% with Luba and Michael's sentiments. So this collaborative effort, it makes the collaborations much more richer, because it's able to pull in the context, and you're spending time on things that matter when you're in a group setting, rather than trying to catch up to where you can fully contribute to that conversation. So maybe it is a discussion or a meeting, or maybe just contributing even to open source projects as well. Understanding and then contributing and collaborating, it just I think it's a perfect fit in the collaborative world. So not just for your personal, but also to get the context for everyone and bring them up to speed on what it is that we are discussing.
I have another great example how it can improve collaboration, and it's not even between teams, it's between generations. Okay, so in this financial sphere, sometimes we come across really strange examples. For example, written in COBOL, that they become, they do exist, they work perfectly, right? But people do not write this language any longer. And well, actually, I just thought about it and didn't really try it, but that can be a really good use case to try, because it's just like, helps helps people understand what is going on there.
COBOL making a comeback. Interesting. Okay, guys, it's up to an hour now that we've been discussing the future and the present, some of the past. So I want to thank everyone, Ski, Luba, and Michael, for your expertise and experience here and sharing with us. And thank you for the audience. And hope to see you soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.